in the past 6 years, I have made well over $3 million. Just last month, July, we made $100,000. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala alihi sahbihi wa sallama tasliman kathira ma ba'd. It's your brother Muhammad Andalusi. First of all, if you don't know me and it's the first time that you're watching this channel, just know that this channel is where I teach students of knowledge, teach online, and earn a living by doing so. And I hope to be that guide through experience to you if you are somebody who Allah Azza wa Jal has blessed to see how the path of seeking knowledge is a lifestyle and is the most honorable lifestyle that somebody can have. If you are that type of person, I hope to be of an inspiration or of a murshid to you, just because of the fact that of the position that Allah has put me on, the fact that I have already experienced running businesses and making money and making a bunch of mistakes and being maftoon by money and not knowing how to manage money, and being the first time that I have touched money in my life, etc., etc. So in this video, this is exactly what I want to talk about, which is the mistakes that I have made in the past 6 years of running business. And after $3 million, what is it that I have learned that I wish I knew before, and that just this year, after 6 years, going up to 7 years, I am starting to take more seriously. And all of these came out of, and the realization was last year when I was in Mauritania for 4 months. It's the first time in 6 years, 5 to 6 years of running business full time, that I decided to actually stop and give all my 24/7 to seeking knowledge again, as I was doing before I started running businesses. If you don't know my background, I was in Egypt 2010. I started practicing Islam. 2011 to 2012, I went to Egypt and stood there for about 5 to 6 years. Then went back to London to work because I got kicked out of Egypt. And then I basically started my own business. And once I was making about $300 to $500 a month, I moved to Mauritania, where I stood for 3 years. After that, I went to Saudi for a year. Wasn't as I expected. Some problems happened. Went back to Mauritania for about a few months. Then went back to Spain for about a year. After that year, I set up my business here in the UAE and moved to UAE, and I have been in the UAE now for 2 years. In this video, what I want to talk about is the biggest realization that I have had in between these past 12 months, really. And this realization came from the question, how am I going to sacrifice as much time as possible toward the seeking of knowledge and toward dawah and toward these type of efforts? I came to realize that the solution was given to me in about 2018, and at that time my business started to boom a little bit. The Arabic Institute started to gain a lot of traction, and we started to make a good $20,000 to $30,000 a month. And in 2018, I was on a live call with Iman Gaji and his media buyer. If you guys don't know Iman Gaji, he's a very known online marketer and an entrepreneur, and considered a leader in this space to many, alongside the Hormozis and the Sam Ovens and the Alex Beckers and all of these guys. And so I remember telling him, I don't want to be a millionaire anymore. I don't want to make too much money. I want to seek knowledge. And what he told me, from what I remember, what I need to do is invest. And what he suggested at that time, it was bonds and stocks. And I remember the conversation, from my lack of knowledge around this field at that time, when toward the fact that I was saying that it's not permissible for us in Islam to gain from interest. And so he proceeded to explain to me, no, it's not interest, this is how it works, dividends, etc., etc. So at that time, all of this conversation, bonds and dividends and stocks and equities and all of this stuff, real estate even, all of this sounded very far away and sounded very fresh to me. I didn't want to get too involved into it. I didn't understand. So I just went with what I knew, which was active income, right? I understood now how to make money because my business started making money. So I just ran with this for the next 4 or 5 years. Now last year, with two beloved brothers of mine, Hanif and Mu'adh, we decided to go to Mauritania. First we said we're just gonna go for 1 month and and then it became basically around 4 months. And the whole idea was that, so while I was here in the UAE, I was reading on my teacher online who was in Mauritania. I was reading Quran, and I was able to revise what I have already memorized. And so in the whole year of 2023, I basically regathered all my memorization, which was about 12 juz. However, because of me running the institute throughout the day, I found very difficult to actually memorize new hifz. So I told myself, okay, I'm able to keep my hifz and I'm able to revise my Quran that I already memorized, right? Because it might take you, 30 minutes to get ready what you're about to read to the sheikh every day. And then you just read it for another 30 to 40 to 1 hour, and khalas, you're done. So I told myself, I obviously want to progress in the hifz. We said, okay, let's just go to Mauritania and let's take time out just to memorize. Let's do a Quran sprint, we called it. And what we did is we went to Mauritania and we stopped everything, and we're doing the bare minimum that was required. In my case, it was literally almost zero. Like, I actually hired an operations manager and I let the team run everything. And so the whole idea was to memorize new Quran so I can then come back to my daily routine and revise those new portions, which I did. I went ahead and memorized 17. I got to 17.5 juz, which was about 4.5 juz that I memorized new, or 5, because I left with 12. And so I came back here to the UAE, and the rest is another topic. What I'm trying to say is that I realized, and even this year, this past 12 months, when I came back, I realized that what my heart really wants, and I'm saying this because of the experience that I had while I was in Mauritania, my heart was back at that softness and riqqa that it was when I first started practicing. And it's something I didn't feel since 2012, 2013. If you know what I'm talking about, is that feeling of your iman being so high in the beginning of your practice, when you're ready to go to the Maj, even if there is war going on there, you're ready to go to Medina and stay there with no iqama. You're ready to go to Egypt and not care about the iqama, and you want all your children to speak Arabic. And that beginning of your practice, especially when you partake a path of sunnah and talab ilm, that feeling, if you are experienced enough in this type of lifestyle, you're ready to do hijrah, etc., you will know that dies out when you start having children, when you start having responsibilities, bills to pay, etc. And so I didn't feel that feeling until last year when I went to Mauritania. What am I trying to say with this is that I realized, if I want to die as a Muslim, وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ, i.e. في أتم حالة استسلام لله عز وجل وانقيادا له, I would have to be given as many hours of the day toward the seeking of knowledge, more especially حفظ القرآن, ترتيله, تدبره, وتعليمه. That's what I felt the most, and it obviously makes sense, right? And I had this very icky type of feeling when I came back to the UAE after those 4 months in Mauritania toward business in general, and toward my lifestyle, about certain material things that I had here, like a luxury car and just the apartments that I rent out, right? And obviously I have more than one wife and so on, so I rent out different apartments, and it's the UAE, so it's nice and so on. So I came back from that lifestyle, that little roughness that we were living in Mauritania, and I was disgusted from here, from the UAE, the cleanness, even my office here, looking nice and everything. I was disgusted generally. For the past 12 months, I kid you not, it's the first year that I have been so confused, in the sense that I didn't even write no goals this year. I was so unfocused because that trip to Mauritania hit me like a left hook in my jaw. Like, I didn't know what I was going to do. Do I scale down the business to have more time? But at the same time, I know that I don't want to not make money either. And at the same time, now my lifestyle, like I said, I have multiple families, children, and so I have bills to pay. And now I have a lifestyle that I have to maintain, not the material extra side, but the actual responsibilities. Taking care of my family is wajib. Seeking knowledge to a certain extent is not wajib. So my whole dilemma and my whole spiritual internal warfare throughout these past 12 months was that, how am I going to stop working, basically, so I can wake up and all the efficiency, productiveness, focus, and time is spent in knowledge and my children, and installing that love for knowledge and that type of lifestyle in them. And so throughout this year, قدر الله ما شاء فعل, هداني الله, Allah Azza wa Jal guided me to that thing that I spoke about and that Imam Gaji, may Allah bless him and guide him towards al-istiqamah, at-tamma. Because, and I say may Allah bless him because he does say that he's a Muslim, and I've been to his house, and I he allowed me to pray in his room, and he was very accommodating, and he's open about his Islam and so on. If you talk to him, he will tell you. Maybe on social media it's not the same, but that's the reason why I say may Allah bless him. And so my mind went back to that. And so it's a very common path towards financial freedom, towards financial independence, which is the thing that he opened my eyes toward in 2018, which was investing in stocks, investing in general. Just start investing as you start making money, and as you build. Once you build a cash flow business, start investing your money. Now, in this video, what I want to do is explain to you what is the ultimate path and the ultimate plan and strategy that if you're someone like me who wants to at one point fully sacrifice his whole time and his whole lifestyle to seeking knowledge and whatever is related to wama wala and whatever is related to knowledge, da'wah, teaching, whatever it might be, your children, your community, whatever it might be, this is the ultimate and most quote-unquote safe path towards achieving that goal. Now, I need you to focus here with me to understand, because I need to give you full context on what is this investment strategy. Once you have already started your Arabic Institute, once you have already established your teaching institute, that some cash flow is coming in. And the reason why I'm talking about this to you guys is because I'm so convinced that once you start following these strategies that I teach you here in this channel and that I'm going to teach you in Madrasa Online, which, by the way, if you want to join the wait list, go to the first link in the description and join that wait list. And if you want more context on how to actually get a cash flow business by starting your Arabic Institute or your teaching institute, go to the second link in the description. Now, first, I need you to understand that historically, over the past 100 years, the US stocks have returned around 8 to 10% per year on average. I.e., if you invest into the stock market, right, and obviously there are some stocks that are going to be haram because they directly deal with riba, but there are some stocks that are halal, and especially in the Muslim world, there's something there's halal stocks, and there's companies that are just into tech, and so there is nothing wrong in investing into this, right? And essentially what it is basically public companies, what it's meant by it is that you can invest into the company, right? So you, for example, put $100 and they give you in exchange a percentage of the company, of the returns and profits of the company. So in the past 100 years, on average, every time you put $100 or $1,000 or $10,000, on average, these markets, the US stocks markets, as an example right now, have returned around 8 to 10%. Okay, so if you put $100 today, by next year, on average, you're gonna get $108 or $110. So obviously there is good years and there is bad years. Sometimes it might be up 20, sometimes it might be down 30. The point is that on average, there is always an 8% return. So when people plan, they often assume if I invest for the long run, I will probably average out 8%. So the idea here is that you want to retire and you are basically preparing your retirement. So once you start your institute and once you start your cash flow business and you start making money, you want to invest it. You want to invest into stocks, you want to invest into real estate, whatever it might be. Here we are going to be talking about stocks, okay? And even there's stocks and platforms that you can invest into actual real estate, and they allocate it for you into real estate. The point is investing. And on average, when you invest money, you're going to get 8%. And again, it's not too much, right? You say, okay, I invest $1,000 and next year I'm going to get $1,080. That's very little, right? It might sound like very little. So stay with me and you will realize where I'm trying to go with this and why is, in my opinion, the best path for a student of knowledge if you want to get to a point where you have 24/7 to seek knowledge and not worry about running a business or how to make money. Now, obviously, it's not a guarantee, just like any investment. And this, as a rule of thumb, if anybody, guarantees you a percentage of profits out of any investment, then know that that's a scam, because there is no investment that is guaranteed. It can have very high probabilities, like in this case, what we are talking about in the averages, but guarantees, there's never guarantees in any investment. Now, that's why many projections show 8% of growth. So it's a realistic long-run expectation if you are in equities on growth or growth-oriented investments. The idea here, and what we are talking about here, is investments of minimum 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Is that type of money that you are willing to put on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, and absolutely forget about it for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Okay, that's that type of money. We're not talking about the get rich, put $100 today, and in 24 hours or in a month you make 1,000 more. We're not talking about that. Okay, these not ish coins, as they call them, or meme coins. Is none of that. So the whole idea is that, again, first you need cash flow to do this, right? It's no point in talking about investment if you don't run a business yet. Once you have started your institute, once you have cash flow coming in, what you then do is actively and aggressively stay on the same level of expenses, which is something that I made a mistake in. And as soon as I started making more money, I started to increase my expenses, which is one of the biggest mistakes I have done with my money management. And this is why I hope to open your eyes onto something here. So the whole idea is that you start aggressively investing. For example, you make a certain amount of money, you invest 70% of it, and the other 30% you leave with it. Okay, now once you run your cash flow business, which could be an Arabic institute, and the blessing about this is that you are still protecting your iman and your deen, because this is highly related to the deen and to ilm and to knowledge, right? So as a talib ilm is the best type of thing that you can be doing, because yes, you can go into some other business that gives you crazy cash flow, but these allows you to, for these 5, 10, 15 years that you are going to be investing, it allows you to still be involved into knowledge. Like, it's such a blessing for me to sit here, and Madrasa Online is going to be a business, and I know some of you will definitely buy into this product. So it's such a blessing that I can sit here and talk to you guys, students of knowledge, fellow students of knowledge, fellow lovers of knowledge. It's such a blessing that I can make a business activity, me just talking to you guys right now, right? So the same thing is going to happen for you if you start your Arabic Institute. You are giving dawah, essentially. You are calling to getting closer to Allah through the Arabic language. Now, once you have done this, then I want you to focus on the 4% withdrawal rule, okay? Which is your retirement phase. Now, once you stop working, you need to leave off your portfolio. Okay, so now in this stage here, you have already invested 5 or 10 or 15 years, depending on you. Okay, here, all of this stage right here, you was working. Now you get to this stage, which is the withdrawal rule. Now, once you stop working, you will need to leave off your portfolio. So the question is, how much can I safely take out each year without running out of money? Now, researchers tested these across 100 years of US market history and found that withdrawing 4% of your portfolio value each year, adjusted for inflation, worked almost in all scenarios. So for example, if you have invested for I don't know how many years and you got to have a $1 million portfolio, you can then go ahead and very safely withdraw $40,000 every year, and even next year you can go up to 41,000 and so on. And so this 4% is considered safe because the average market return, say 8%, according to the history of the US market, right? Which is the most relevant market. So it's enough to cover your withdrawals and inflation and still keep your portfolio growing over decades. Inflation basically means that if the money, the more we progress in life, loses value. And so inflation, if you keep, for example, $1,000 in your bank account, in 10 years, that $1,000 might be maybe worth $800, $700 because of inflation. Now you need to account for that. That's like paying taxes. So if you take 4% of your portfolio after you have invested and after you have a significant portfolio, and I will show you some examples down here of what type of portfolios it can look like, and I will give you an example from my current portfolio. If you do this, it will be enough. Like this 4%, you can leave of it and you can account for inflation, and your portfolio continue to grow year after year. Now let's get into something more clear, right? Actual numbers, like, so you can imagine. Now, like I tell you, this year I have realized this, right? So once I've realized it, I was like, man, I wish I started this earlier. If I started this earlier, I would have gotten closer to my retirement portfolio faster. The point is, I just started. Qaddar Allah wa shafa'ala. Allah is the best of planners. Now, I have this portfolio right here, which is worth $22,000. And as you can see in the past few months, which is, I think, since May, the earnings are $858. Now, you might say, subhanAllah, you put in 22,000 and you only got 800. As we said, we need to think long term and we need to think big numbers. Now, let me give you an example of if I keep on doing this, what would it look like the future if Allah Azza wa Jal give us long years of life, and may Allah give us long years upon His worship Azza wa Jal. Now, if I keep doing this and I keep investing $800 a week, basically I will be investing $41,000 a year. Now, in 5 years, that portfolio will be worth $252,000, which will, according to this rule that we spoke about, the 4% rule, which technically allows me to take out 4% every year, and it allows that my portfolio continues to grow, right? So I don't run out of money and I take profits every year. That's the whole idea. Now, in 5 years, if I continue to do this, I would be able to have a portfolio of $252,000, take out that safe 4% a year, and be able to withdraw $10,000 a year, which will be around $830 a month. Now, you might say, subhanAllah, $800 a month is not enough to maintain my lifestyle, right? It's not for mine either, but let's look at the numbers. Now, if you continue to do this $800 a week for 5 years, you basically in 5 years can be making $800 a month with no work. If you do this for 10 years, you will be able to then take out about $1,700. You will be able to be making passively $1,700 a month. If you do this for 20 years, and stay with me, it might look like a long time, but stay with me, it will make more sense. If you do this for 20 years, you will have a portfolio of 1.2 million, which would allow you to be making $4,000 a month with no work, right? Just from your investments. Now, to get here, obviously you will have to be investing $800 a week for 20 years. At the 20th year, once your portfolio becomes this, then you can say, okay, now I'm gonna stop working, I'm not gonna do anything else, and I'm just gonna be making $4,000 a month. Or if you do this for 25 years, continue to invest $800 for 25 years, and get to a portfolio of 1.8 million, and you take out 4% every year, you will be basically living with around 72K a year, i.e. $6,000 a month. Now, the whole idea here, you might say right now, and I know the limiting beliefs that you might be telling yourself already, oh, I can't even do $800 a week, aslan, right? And that's the whole point. And this is why we said that first you need a cash flow business. Once you have a cash flow business, like I told you, I've been running Andres Institute for 6 years now. And on average, I take out every month in between $25,000 to $35,000. So obviously 800 a week is very doable. And I could even do more right now. But the point is that you first need the cash flow business. And that's why I'm showing you this, so you can see clearly the end goal. So then you are more motivated to start as soon as possible your cash flow machine that allows you to stay aligned and connected to the deen at the same time. So all of these years are in worship because you are calling to Allah Azza wa Jalla and you're teaching the Arabic language, perhaps teaching Quran, whatever it might be. And at the same time, you are building that retirement that will allow you to seek knowledge, to give dawah, to teach your children, or do whatever you want with that passive income. Now, let me give you an example here. If you do $2,000 a month, once you have a cash flow business, then in 5 years you could be making $400 a month. In 10 years of investing $2,000 a month, you could be making in 10 years $900 a month. In 20 years, $2,000 a month. In 25 years, $3,000 a month, right? And here you can see some other examples. Once you have a cash flow business and you grow it, it's very doable to do $5,000 a month investment for 5 years, and then get in 5 years to making $1,000 a month, or for 10 years and get to 2,500, or do it for 20 years and get 5,900 a month. And likewise, it gets very, very doable to do $10,000 a month, right? And this is why I'm telling you guys, like, the reason why I'm telling you this is because if I actually maintained low expenses from the beginning of me making money, and instead of me making more money, I increase my expenses. And so I'm only able to do $800 a week now, but I could really be doing more. I could be doing 10,000 a month. Imagine if I was doing 10,000 a month. In 5 years of just doing this, in 5 years, go super fast, I could be making then about $2,000 a month. And $2,000 a month living in Medina, with I don't know, 3-5 children, that is some decent amount of money. And if you say, okay, that's not enough money, khalas, do it for 10 years and get to 4,500. Or do it for 15 years or 20 years, get to 10,000. This is 10,000 of absolute passive income. Like, you can get up and not do anything in regards of making money, in regards of business, and make this amount of money. So you guys see what I'm trying to get. Now, if at any of these stages the person stops contributing, i.e. investing into the portfolio, and only withdraws 4% per year, at year 5, year 10, year 20, or year 25, regardless of the starting balance, withdrawing 4% annually would be sustainable. Why? Because the long-term average growth of the portfolio, around 7 to 8 historically in stocks and real estate, is greater than the 4% withdrawal rate. That means, so what this means basically is that at any stage, if you say, for example, khalas, I'm just going to invest $2,000 a month, and at year 5, I'm going to stop putting $2,000 a month, and I'm just going to withdraw $400 a month, and I'm going to leave off that. And by the way, when I was in Egypt, I was $400 a month. Me, my wife, and my one child was enough for food, rent, studies, and I was living very comfortably with $400 a month. So what I'm trying to say with this is very possible. And so the possibilities are endless. You can say, you know what, I'm going to run a business for 5 years straight. I'm going to live back home with my parents or in my parents' garage, whatever it might be, and I will invest instead of $2,000, I will invest $3,000, so I can get to maybe $1,000 in 5 years. And then after 5 years, khalas, I'm going to focus only on, I'm going to go to Mauritania in the desert. I'm just going to leave off $1,000 in the desert. I'm trying to open your brain here on the possibility of the possibilities of what can be done in 5 years of focus, investment. Now that means that the withdrawals cover living expenses. The remaining growth after inflation allows the portfolio to keep compounding. And that's, by the way, what I'm trying to say here is that if you stop here and now you say, you know what, the first year I'm just going to get this amount of money, right? On average, it's not guaranteed, but you're going to get this amount of money. By you just keeping your portfolio in there, it will continue to grow. That's the thing. So next year is going to be more. The third year after that is going to be more. The fourth year is going to be more, inshallah, bi'idhnillah. So the portfolio does not run out of money. In fact, in most historical scenarios, it continues to grow, often leaving more wealth over time. So in plain English, whether you reach 130, 325, 350K, or into the millions, if you stop adding money and only take 4% each year, your portfolio keeps working for you and is very unlikely to ever hit zero. Now, the core idea in short is save, invest aggressively while working, while running a business, while receiving cash flow every month, right? So get the cash flow and then save and invest very aggressive, and then build a portfolio worth 25x your annual expenses, right? So for example, if your expenses are, I don't know, $20,000 a year, you multiply that times 25, and that's what your portfolio should be at in order for you to be able to take out 4% every year and leave of it. So basically what you should think is, okay, what are my expenses? What are the type of lifestyle that I want to have? That's the amount of money I'm gonna need. So that times 25 is the portfolio that I need to grow to stop working and retire and just focus on seeking knowledge. And the last step is basically retire and step back once. And step back once 4% withdrawals cover your lifestyle. So once the 4% withdrawal covers your lifestyle, right? If you take out 4% of your portfolio every year, and that equals your lifestyle and the amount of money you need, then that means that you can now retire. Now, here's where it gets very interesting. And I will just take 2 more minutes of yours. You will think now, I can't even do 100, right? So the first limiting belief, or the first thing that's going to break that limiting belief, is start your cash flow business. Start your institute. Believe me, you can get to 10,000 a month very simply, inshallah, and very easily. Bi-idhnillah azza wa jal. Second thing is, even if I do 100 a week, that means that if I do 100 a week or 500 a week, in 5 years, what I would be able to make in 5 years residually or passively per month is still not enough to cover my expenses, and I will have to maybe do it in 25 years, right? You say, subhanAllah, 2,000 a month, I would only be able to make 3K after 25 years, right? That might be a limiting belief as well. Now, the thing that I want to open your eyes to as well is that once you have ran a business for long enough, you will start developing skills that allow you to push the needle if you want to. And to say, for example, you know what? For the next 6 months, I'm going to focus on business. Really, I'm going to focus on business. And I'm going to make 3 more X than what I would have done if I was just passively running the business. And so you will start developing a skill, which is being able to push the needle further. Being able to push the needle further. So you will make as much as whatever effort you put in. So what I'm trying to say right now is that me, for example, right now, we are making about 80 to 100,000 a month, right? I know exactly after 6 years of running this, which anybody would develop this skill if they run a business for long enough. It's just like anything else. It's just learning a skill. I now know exactly what I need to do to make 2 mil, 3 mil, 4 mil the next year or in 3 years, right? But the thing is that the sacrifice that I will have to put in and the amount of time that I'll have to put in and the relationships that will be, harmed and the amount of time that I will spend with my kids, I just necessarily might not want to do that right now. But the option is there. So the whole idea is that, yes, the time might be very long for you to get to, for example, 8,000 a month, because you will have to have a portfolio of 2.5 million, or, to get to 10,000 a month, you will have to have 3.5 million. But the thing is, you will build the skill to make this 3.5 if you want in a year. Or you will realize that, you know what, I'm just fine doing the amount of work that I'm doing and just making these per month or making, 300,000 per year. And it will be up to you. With this, it's about to be 45 minutes of recording this video. So I will leave it here. If you want to learn a little bit more how this business that I'm teaching works, check the video in the description. Assalamu alaikum.